Pasquale.
Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He's ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure to check us out on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live. Today's show is sponsored by EZ Home Exteriors. That is the letter E, the letter Z, Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, entryways, as well as siding. Easy Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. What's going on, Ryan? It's been a long week.
Hey, what's going on, brother? Yes, it is good to see you. We are midweek. We got a little bit of a heat wave going on here in Western PA.
I know. It's raining cats and dogs out there.
You know what? I'm grateful. I'm glad that it is raining cats and dogs, because if it was colder, it would be snowing. That would all be snow. So I'm satisfied with what we have going on out there. I'll take a little rain over the snow in January anytime.
Well, right after Eddie and Curtis almost jumped me on the way in this morning today. We were chatting, we were laughing after they realized it was me. Anyway, we were outside and it was raining, and I said, I'll take this all January. And they were actually like, yeah, we'll take this all January and February. So it is nice that it is above freezing. We were in the 50s today, rained all day.
Yeah, I'll take this anytime. As I said, any day that it rains, that's one less day that we have to deal with the snow. And that's always good with me. There's always the dumb little things you have to deal with when it's snowing out. You have to, of course, scrape your windshields, shovel the snow. And my favorite is when
slip like 3,500 times like I do.
Well, my favorite is when you open up the car door and that big gust of snow always comes and lands all over your seat.
It only goes in one spot. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
It lands right where you want to sit back and where your backside goes.
Absolutely. And no matter how much you brush, you never get it all off, and you're sitting on a wet seat the whole time. So, I'll take the rain. I'll take the rain for sure.
All right.
Ralph?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't. He's not on yet.
Oh, okay. I thought we had a guest. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it. Probably the first thing I'd like to talk to him about is, so the Penguins.
Yeah.
After the Steelers lost in the playoff game, I was like, oh, the Penguins have won 4 out of 5. They're on a streak. That's good. Now we can transfer from the Steelers into the Penguins, and the Penguins are relevant. And then they go out west and don't get any points and score on themselves. Did you see the play? Letang to Malkin. I mean, it was like bang, bang.
Yeah, I didn't see it yet. I heard about it. Not really rushing to go see it. But the one thing that I did notice over the past couple of days is when they lost to the Coyotes, that broke the Coyotes' 11-game winning streak, or losing streak, I'm sorry. So if that is any indication on how we're doing, I get it.
Well, what had happened was there was a delayed penalty. So, we can't score on our own nets unless we score on our own net, as soon as the other team touches the puck. So we pull the goalie, throw the extra attacker on, and Letang and Malkin, with 15:50 left in the third, Pens down 3-2, decide to give the Coyotes a goal to make it 4-2, end up losing 5-2. They are currently 21-17-6 with 48 points. To me, I'm not very good with hockey math. To me, they're 21-23.
Yeah. When you look at that record, it's not the most. You look at it just if you're not really into hockey, you're not paying attention to the standings. You say to yourself, that's not a really bad record. But then once you look around the league and around the division, and you could say, wow, that's probably pretty much the worst record in our division. And so there you go. You have a team full of Hall of Famers, Brian.
Well, I don't know. I've said this before on previous shows. After last season, I was kind of like, okay, I want to watch Letang, Malkin, and Crosby just ride off into the sunset. I don't care if they win. I don't care if they make the playoffs. I know they're going to have some good games, some bad games. They won 3 cups. They went to 4 Stanley Cup finals, and I'm satisfied with that. I'm okay to be mediocre, below mediocre, and then we get Dubas in, make a bunch of trades, and bring in Carlson and Riley Smith, and now I got all excited, and now we're back to 21-23.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just convinced that this team really isn't that good. You have these special guys. Crosby is basically doing what he's done his whole career. As far as the other guys, Letang, Malkin, you bring in Carlson. I'm convinced right now they're putting butts in seats. They're selling these guys' names at the time. Whether they're able to pull it all together, make a playoff run, it still remains to be seen. But you know what? Hall of Famers are not. They're old legs at this point. And as I said, Crosby's the only one that's really playing like he still wants to win.
I was listening to another show today, not a very good one. My brother was actually listening with me. He goes, "How can you listen to these guys?" I'm like, "They're awful." But I was listening, and they did point out that in 2009 and 2016, the Penguins had 21 wins at this point. So we are at the exact same point as those two Stanley Cup playoff championship teams. Well, transferring over, we have Ralph Williams on the line here from the Sports Corner every 4 to 6 here on WBBP 99.3 Beaver County Radio. Ralph, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. How's everything?
Great. I actually have a positive to ask my Wednesday Wisdom with Williams, okay? The last few times you've been on my show, I've asked you about Pitt men's basketball. What's up with that? And since my last show, they beat, at the time, a top 10 ranked Duke at Duke 80-76, and they went into Georgia Tech and beat them 72-64. What's going on there, Ralph?
Well, it looks like Jeff Cable said he was going to make some changes, and he did. And, he benched Federico, and he made some other changes, and now, they won 2 games against 2 good ACC teams.
Right, so that gets them up to 3 wins in the ACC. I believe, what are they, 3-5 now in the ACC? They are at Miami this Saturday afternoon, and then they are at home versus Wake Forest next Wednesday. Do you see them winning either of those 2 games?
Well, if they keep the momentum going, that'll be great, because I would like to see that happen. Last year they were the dark horse. They weren't expected to go into the NCAA tournament, and they did. And Brian, I think maybe this year they might be able to do the same thing. They got to do a little bit of catching up, though.
Right, they definitely got behind. They got behind the 8 ball there with a 1-5 start. I believe their only win was Louisville. At Louisville, 83-70 on January 6th. But yeah, since late December, they had like 1 win, so it's good to see them on the right track. Switching gears a little and moving to the Penguins, what do you see them doing with Jake Gensel? He is on the 5th year of his deal, $6 million a year. This is his final year on the deal. He's a star. He could carry on the legacy, but I would assume that if he's the captain of the team moving forward, that it'll be rebuilding. So do you want to keep him just to rebuild, or do you think they should try to get some prospects?
Well, Brian, the Penguins need to do something, and they can't because they don't have salary cap money.
Mm-hmm.
They're really stuck. I mean, Dubas had to clean up all of Hextall's mess. And then after he cleaned up Hextall's mess, he still was able to at least keep the 3 guys, Letang, Malkin, and Crosby still together. And he made some changes, brought in some people. Gensel's either going to have to take a pay cut, or what he's going to have to do is they're going to have to trade him. And I don't know who they trade for. I know they have some bottom line problems, and they have some power play problems for some strange reason. I don't know why. But there we are. So, the Penguins are kind of a strange group right now. It's kind of like the Steelers. On paper, they look good at the beginning of the season, and now it's a roller coaster ride going up and down, just like the Steelers this year.
Well, speaking of the Steelers and a roller coaster, Mike Sullivan is set to interview at 2 places. I believe New Orleans is one of them for their offensive coordinator job. And the Raiders, okay. And then, so do you see him getting hired by either of those?
Yeah, I do. Because, first of all, when mediocre Mike here hires an offensive coordinator, he's in charge of hiring the offensive staff. Although I do know Tomlin did say at the closing press conference that he would like for Faulkner and Sullivan to stay. He has invited them to stay. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because what he does is he has the offensive coordinator hire his own staff. I mean, his own line coach, his own receiver coach, or whoever. So all the guys that are there could all get fired, or he could replace them. But if Tomlin says, "Look, you got to keep them," maybe Sullivan needs a change of atmosphere. Maybe he feels a little insulted because he called the plays. I thought he did a pretty decent job toward the end of the year when he took over the play calling duties. I saw some plays downfield. I saw some different plays. I saw a pretty decent game plan. So he might want to move on and say, "Hey, look, I want to move away from this."
What do you think about Faulkner, Eddie Faulkner's future? Do you see him staying? I know you just brought up the new offensive coordinator might bring in their own running backs coach, but do you see him, Tomlin maybe stepping in and saying you need to keep Faulkner?
Well, from what I hear, Tomlin don't have too much power anymore, because usually he interviews all the coaches and he handles hiring them. Well, guess what, Brian? Art II and Omar Khan and Andy Weidel are sitting in on this now. So there's going to be 4 guys interviewing this offensive coordinator.
Okay. Now, I heard there's like 4,000.
I think Faulkner might stay. If Faulkner stays, and I'd like to see him reacquire or keep Pat Meyer. I thought Pat Meyer did a pretty decent job with the offensive line this year, considering what he had to work with in some cases.
Well, from my understanding, they are interviewing or looking at least 4,295,000 offensive coordinator potentials. Who do you see as like I think it's in the mid-20s actually. But who do you see as a serious candidates of like your top 3-ish?
Well, I found out today they want to interview Arthur Smith. I like Arthur Smith. He was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee under Mike Vrabel before he became the head coach at Atlanta. He's one of them kind of guys who basically is a good coordinator but not a good head coach. I like the Cliff Kingsbury interview. They also are interviewing Zach Anderson from the LA Rams. He's been a coordinator and a quarterback coach around the league at times. And he just was down there with the Rams helping out as far as, pass game coordinator.
Okay. Well, you didn't mention Bayer Leftwich. Any particular reason why not? Because I just feel like that's who it's going to end up to be.
Well, that's who we all thought it was going to be. I suggested they hire Byron Leftwich as the offensive coordinator and bring in Mark Whipple as an assistant an offensive assistant, because Glenn Thomas left to go to Nebraska, so he's gone. And I suggested this combination here, but I found out that Byron Leftwich had already interviewed before Thanksgiving, and they said no, they're not interested in him.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. All right, Ralph, we have about a minute and a half here. This weekend's football, we have 3 p.m. Chiefs at Ravens. What do you think about that game?
Well, I'm not a big fan of Taylor Swift, first of all. Second of all, she's a distraction. But if KC can get through that distraction, I think they can beat the Ravens. I want them to beat the Ravens. They're a better coach and a better football team than the Ravens. And I think that they can beat them, and I hope they do, because I don't want to see the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
All right, then at 6:30, the Detroit Lions, yes, Ralph, the Detroit Lions are in the championship game, the NFC championship game versus the 49ers. What do you see going on in that game?
I smell upset. I think Detroit's going to win. It's going to be a dogfight, but I think Detroit pulls it out at the end.
Very good, very good. Anything else you'd like to say, Ralph, before we have to head to break?
No, not really. I'll be on later on 7 p.m. I have a new sports show on Blog Talk Radio. It's my national show called Pittsburgh Sports Talk. It's with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier. Tonight we have our guest, Matt Venzel, who covers the Penguins, and later on JT Toth from the Draft412.com, one of our sponsors. 563-999. 3740 is the number to listen to the show. Blog Talk Radio. You can also get on blogtalkradio.com.
All right, be sure to check that out, everyone. You can also catch Ralph every 4 to 6 here on 99.3 Beaver County Radio at Sports Corner. We are going to head to break. Ralph, thanks for joining us, and you have a safe trip wherever you're headed.
You're welcome, Brian. And also, Brian, this Tuesday, coming up, John Parado in the studio. We're doing a pirate show. As you know, spring training's coming up in the middle of February, and I want to get guys in here before they go to spring training and get lost, and I can't find them. But John Parado will join me in the studio on Tuesday, and we'll also talk about who's going to the Super Bowl and all that at 5 o'clock till 5:30, and then our wrestling segment.
All right, excellent. Thanks again, Ralph. Be safe out there. You guys have been listening to...
Have a great one. Enjoy the rest of your show. Man.
You
have
too.
A good one. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you've been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Zookie's Sports Tavern on Constitution Boulevard has the best wings and homemade sauces in Beaver County. Zookie's Sports Tavern is the perfect place to grab a bite to eat or a cold beverage before high school basketball games. Zookie's Sports Tavern has a heated and enclosed outside bar equipped with several big screen TVs and is the ideal place to watch all of your favorite sports. Don't forget to become a VIP for discounts and special offers at Zookies.com. That's Zookie's Sports Tavern on Constitution Boulevard.
No matter what the circumstances, no matter the reason, one of the few things that is left when a loved one passes on are the memories. Staging those memories in an honoring way is one of the reasons so many people have chosen J&J Spratt Funeral Home. A person's legacy depends on a lifetime of accomplishments and then how they are remembered. J&J Spratt Funeral Home has helped start the process of creating positive legacies for over 70 years. Visit jjsprattfh.com. Joseph M. Spratt, Supervisor and Funeral Director.
Let's get grumped up. Feel like grabbing a drink with friends or enjoying a delicious meal? Stop in the Grumpy Beaver, 234 Bridge Street in Bridgewater. Try a variety of hoagies or hot dogs. Enjoy the wedge selections or a mouth-watering dessert. If you need a place to host an event, they've got that covered too. Call the Grumpy Beaver today and become a member of the Grumpy Nation. To keep up with current events, live music selections, and more, follow the Grumpy Beaver on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to check out the Spirit Speakeasy located upstairs behind the red door, Thursday through Saturday at the Grumpy Beaver.
It started with a road trip into the American Midwest. Huntington bankers with one mission, to understand how people made sense of money. And that's how we met Dontel.
How do we control cash flow? Calendar, dates marked for invoices, when payroll hits. It's messy, but it gives us a sense of what's coming.
And that's how we came up with a tool that helps businesses forecast cash flow digitally. Our customers give us the best ideas. Huntington, welcome. Member FDIC. Learn more at huntington.com.
Now back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
Back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He is ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888. Also, make sure you check us out at Beaver County Radio Facebook Live. Today's show is sponsored by EZ Home Exteriors. That's the letter E, the letter Z, Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entryways, as well as siding. EZ Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. It is my pleasure now. We have our Bills insider, NFL expert, our fantasy guru, the dancing destroyer, the king of sting, the count of Monte Fisco, the prince of punch, the master of disaster, the one, the only, Dan the Man Neely. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Before we get into the NFL playoffs, you are a diehard Bills fan. You had season tickets for 19 season, had to get them up because you moved to Florida. By the way, it's 50-some degrees up here, so we're going to brag about that. Yes, it rained all day, but it is 50s. So what happened to your Bills against the Chiefs? That says it all.
That's how we all feel. It's just like, oh. No, the reality is we just can't stop them. And the last 4 losses in the playoffs, we've averaged 33 points a game given up. And usually the team that scores 30-ish points wins.
Dan, what I was thinking, and I may have even mentioned this last week to you, it's almost like, because I do remember making the comparison with you with Josh Allen and Ben Roethlisberger, and to me, from an outsider, it looks a lot like Ben Roethlisberger and the Golden Boy Tom Brady. You guys are having the same situation with the Golden Boy Mahomes. They're just the team that it's going to be extremely difficult for Buffalo to beat. It's going to be a team that's difficult for Josh Allen, and it has that same feel as the Big Ben and Tom Brady era. Are you guys getting that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting old fast.
I mean, it's not like you guys aren't coming off of 20 years of Tom Brady being in your division, right? I mean, does it get any worse than that?
I think it's a great comparison, though, really. I mean, it's like you might have the best player in the league at your position in any other era.
Yeah.
And then here you have to go against this guy that's been in the AFC Championship 6 years in a row. He's in his 7th year in the league, and he didn't play in his first year.
Well, I did hear somebody, Dan, on the radio today, and this is funny that you guys brought up the Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Mahomes scenario here. They said on the radio, basically Buffalo has to hope that Mahomes gets hurt for a year like Brady did, and when the Steelers went and won the Super Bowl when Matt Castle was at the helm. I mean, is it boiling down to that, Dan?
I don't know. I think that the Bills do score more points versus the Chiefs than other teams do, and it's just a matter of stopping Mahomes once or twice during the game, and that's the difference, really. And they just can't seem to stop the guy. And we have a defensive coach. We spend half of our money on defense. I think that there's a lot of value right now in these NFL teams that have an offensive-minded head coach, because when you have a superstar quarterback, you're going to lose your coordinator every other year,
right? Because
everybody's looking for that next offensive head coach. And these guys, I saw an article yesterday, since 2022, every single NFL team has replaced their offensive coordinator. And a lot of it has to do with everybody's looking for that next Andy Reid. Everybody's looking for that next Kyle Shanahan.
Everybody's looking for that next. Who do you think the Steelers might get? Well, speaking of which, before we get into this weekend's games.
I noticed that there's not a long list of people that they've officially interested in yet, and I think more names will come out. I don't know much about Zach Robinson. I do like McVay, and I really respect him. Kingsbury, I always really liked. I thought that he was going to work out in Arizona, and I know this year he played a little part in Caleb Williams' development in USC, and he's going to be the number one pick. The guy's really a dynamic play caller. I just don't know if he's going to want to go to Pittsburgh.
That's kind of my thoughts, because Mike Tomlin has an awful lot of control, and he wants you to play a certain way, and the way is not the way of the NFL currently. It's the way of the NFL, I don't know, back when we had Jerome Bettis. So do you see some of the top offensive coordinators just not wanting to come to Pittsburgh just because, well, one, you have Kenny Pickett, two, you have two receivers, one on the last year of his contract, and there's a lot of negative to Pittsburgh?
I don't think too many people are going to turn that job down. Let's be real. They're hard to come by, and Tomlin's had a winning record in every year, and you're not.
I never heard that, really.
Stuck, you're not going to get stuck on a terrible team. If anything, you're going to be put in a position again to maybe potentially be interviewed for a head coaching job again, because your team's going to win games. But Kingsbury's a little bit different. I think he's going to have maybe a little bit more of a choice of his job. I can't think of really too many offensive coordinators. Maybe Bieniemy being the other guy. I think, he's going to have more than one offer.
One more question before we get into this weekend's matchup. What did the Packers do to lose that game to the 49ers?
Wow. It's just the way NFL goes. It's hard to say. They fired their defensive coordinator today.
Oh, really?
I thought that he'd been pretty good, and I thought their defense at least was able to take away the other team's number one receivers pretty well, and that's very important.
All right. Well, moving on, 3 p.m., Chiefs at the Ravens. What do you see going on with that game, specifically with like Jackson Mahomes matchup?
Well, out of all the two games, this one's by far the most even matchups. I think that the edge probably goes to Kansas City a little bit. They have better mismatches. Kelsey and Rice both have better mismatches than Flowers or whoever the Ravens are lining up out there at tight end. And I think that if I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on Kansas City and the points. They're getting 3.5 points. I think that the over is probably a pretty good bet too, 44.5. When it comes down to it, no one's really stopping Mahomes. And the Bills, I think, gave up 17 points a game this season, and they couldn't stop them. Baltimore was the best defense in the league this year, and I doubt they're going to stop them. I think that probably going to be the over. I'd bet the over before I bet a winner.
Speaking the over, is Lamar Jackson's rushing yards like 65?
I think that it could be 100.
Right. I'm like, well, take the over. I'm not a betting person, but I'm like, he's going to be running every chance he gets. Any play that breaks down, he's going to try to make something out of it to get to the Super Bowl, right?
Well, to add a little fuel to that, there is a pretty decent chance of rain and wind.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any game this weekend that is going to have bad weather, it's the only chance of a bad weather game. And I could see Lamar taking 15 carries in a rainy game for a trip to the Super Bowl. They're not going to leave anything on the table with his legs.
Let me ask Dan real quick because we're getting ready to go on break, Brian. Dan, another comparison that I make, and as I made earlier with you with the the Patriots and the Steelers comparison, is it really feels like no matter what the Kansas City Chiefs do, because if you remember the Patriots over the years, they went through wide receivers, they went through running backs, and it was always somebody new. It was never really, 1 year it was Julian Edelman, 1 year it was Wes Welker, 1 year it was, and they weren't amazing talents. They weren't the top talented guys in the league. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball, they went through so many guys, there was such a turnover. Kansas City kind of has the same situation. The big name guys that have left, Tyreek Hill, people on the defensive side of the ball, those guys are gone, but yet this duo of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid keep going on and keep moving on and keep finding ways to win. And that's another comparison that I do make with the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick era, because they went through so many people came and left, and at the end of the day, it was obviously those two that you were afraid to play. It was those two that were going to beat you on Sunday. And that's another comparison that I do make with this Kansas City team and ultimately, extending out to Buffalo.
Yeah, and to even make another similarity, Spagnuolo is really underrated. He's probably as good of a defensive coordinator as Bill Belichick was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kansas City's not given up very many points in any game all year.
You're right, and for a defense that's not star-studded, it's pretty impressive what they're doing over there.
All right, Dan, we have about 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half here. Lions at 49ers. I see that Deebo Samuels is in pain, struggling to get full movement. What do you know about that, and what do you see for the matchup? We got about a minute.
Well, I think the best matchups across the whole entire playoffs are almost all on San Francisco's offense. So Debo or no Debo, Kittle's the best matchup tight end this week. Ayuk's the best matchup receiver this week. McCaffrey has a really positive run blocking matchup with his O-line. Debo or no Debo, I think San Francisco should be able to score a lot of points. I think they'll win the game handedly. I don't know if I'm a Detroit hater, but I just don't believe in them in this particular game.
I got it. Any last comment, Ryan, for Dan?
No, I always love when Dan comes on. I know that he watches every single football game in a season, so I am very impressed by that. I do respect his knowledge, and I learn a lot from Dan every time he's on. As a matter of fact, I watched some of the prop bets last week that he had mentioned, and they all came through. Everything Dan said checked out, and I'll continue to listen to Dan when he calls in.
All right, Dan, we appreciate you coming on the show. I guess maybe we'll probably have you on here before the Super Bowl so we can go over that whole matchup. Thanks again, Dan Neely. Enjoy the weather down in Florida.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, I know I don't have any time for me, but I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit about the conspiracy with the Super Bowl logo. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'll listen in on the show to see if you guys can spend a second on that.
All right, we definitely will. You guys have been listening to WBEP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We will be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
No matter what the circumstances, no matter the reason, one of the few things that is left when a loved one passes on are the memories. Staging those memories in an honoring way is one of the reasons so many people have chosen J&J Spratt Funeral Home. A person's legacy depends on a lifetime of accomplishments and then how they are remembered. J&J Spratt Funeral Home has helped start the process of creating positive legacies for over 70 years. Visit jjsprattfh.com. Joseph M. Spratt, Supervisor and Funeral Director.
In revolutionary times, to be a patriot meant devoting oneself to the greater good and serving one's country in order to preserve the quality of life for everyone. Being a patriot can still bring great rewards in much the same way when you engage with Patriot Home Care in the Beaver Falls area. It can happen as an in-home care and general assistance provider for your loved one, or as a place for you to serve others as a Patriot Home Care employee. Do the patriotic thing today. Call Patriot Home Care, 724-506-8911. Let's all join together to serve the community. Airtime provided by Beaver Area Heritage Foundation.
When life brings the great outdoors indoors, you need a reliable washer and dryer with the ability to enhance cleaning and sanitize your laundry. See the experts at AK Nahas to determine the laundry pair that works the best for your family. Whether it's the durability of commercial cleaning like Speed Queen and Maytag, or the capacity and power steam cleaning of GE and Whirlpool, AK Nahas has it all. Cleaning is believing. See it all at AK Nahas Appliance, Furniture, Mattress, and TV. You'll do okay with AK.
In Beaver County, there are many great stories to tell. One such worthy story is that of the Drug-Free Community Support Program. Now in its fourth year of serving Aliquippa, the project has enjoyed great success through in-school interaction, education, raising awareness, and data analysis. The Drug-Free Community Support Program in Aliquippa has a mission to help local youth make better decisions regarding alcohol and drug use. For more information or to find out how you can get involved, visit Drug-Free Aliquippa on Facebook.
Now back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He is ready to take your calls. I really appreciate some calls here today. 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Make sure you guys check us out at Beaver County Radio Facebook Live as well. Today's show is sponsored by EZ. That's the letter E, the letter Z, Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entryways, as well as siding. EZ Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That is 412-678-7008. We had Ralph on in the first segment from Sports Corner. That's Ralph Williams. You can check him out here on Beaver County Radio from 4 to 6 every Tuesday. Then on the second segment, we had Dan the Man Neely. We are going to keep following up with him the rest of the NFL season leading up to the Super Bowl, of course. There is one thing I wanted to bring up in sports that I don't know. Western PA, they don't watch as much of this as I do, but I wanted to talk a little NBA real quick. The Milwaukee Bucks, and pay attention to this, Ryan, because this is big. The Milwaukee Bucks are 30-13 and in second place, right?
Okay.
They brought over Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers, and he is currently their second best player alongside Giannis, okay? Well, Damian Lillard isn't happy, so he got the head coach fired.
And it never seems like anybody's happy in the NBA, Brian. What's going on over there?
Well, I don't know, but they hired Doc Rivers, and let me just tell you about Doc Rivers. He has failed everywhere he's gone since, what was it, the 08 Boston Celtics or whatever. He has stunk. He was up 3-1. The Clippers, he was the coach of the Clippers versus the Nuggets, 3-1 in the bubble. They had over 20-point leads in all three closing games and ended up collapsing to the Nuggets and lost out playing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Also, my boy, go ahead.
Who was the coach? Who got fired?
I don't know who the Bucks head coach was.
Okay.
I was going to make that note, and I'm like, it's irrelevant. He's fired.
Right.
So maybe we can find that out here before at the end of the next break. But speaking of getting coaches fired, my boy LeBron James, he, according to my sources, he had a secret meeting with the ownership of the Lakers to get head coach Darvin Ham fired. Darvin Ham found out, and LeBron James was benched for it was rivalry night, right? So it was LA Clippers versus LA Lakers rivalry night, right? And LeBron got benched versus the Clippers because of his conspiracy to take out Caesar.
That's fantastic.
And so he wasn't at the game as far as I'm concerned, because they would have panned to him a million times.
Yeah.
I didn't see him pan to him one time. So LeBron wants to get his head coach fired. Damian Lillard does. How did these players get so much power is my question.
That is a very great question, Brian. It seems like this, if you go from top to bottom and just look at the sports now compared to when we were kids, and I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy in this situation. There's so much has changed in the sport, and you always find things that you like in change in sports, and then you find a lot of things that you dislike. This certainly falls in the latter. I don't, because where's it going to go next? What's the next natural step if this is what's going on in the NBA? The league has to take control back. It seems like the players have way too much control in the NBA to me.
So, Ryan, when we were about 10 years old, okay?
Yeah.
Rod Woodson had his first career interception for a touchdown.
Oh, nice.
I believe it was against the Bengals or whatever. And as he's running into the end zone, he must have been doing a Deion Sanders kind of like showboating, pointing the ball to the offensive lineman who was maybe trying to tackle him or whatever.
Yeah.
And everybody's cheering him on and giving him high fives. And at the time, one of their coaches was Mean Joe Green. Mean Joe Green looks at Rod Woodson and says, "Never do that again." And you know what Rod Woodson's response was?
What's up?
Yes, sir.
I was going to say he probably wet himself and just continued running home. Come on, Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, so how have we gone from the Mean Joe Green coach aspect to the coach doesn't even have power over the players?
And I hate to make this correlation, Brian, but it's what's going on in society as a whole. I do believe that, honestly. And if you look anywhere from school districts to jobs to even the guy that works down at the drive-through window, there's so much entitlement in. And I don't know where this came from. Maybe it came from going through good times, just as a country where things were good. People were making a lot of money. We were making a lot of advancement here in the States. And it seems to me that maybe this is part of the entitlement that comes with going through good times. It kind of creates crappy character. But, it's a pendulum, and it does come back around. And
what's the saying? I'm going to totally mess this up, so forgive me wrong, but you'll get the gist.
Yeah.
Hard times create tough men create great times create weak men create.
If I was a smarter person, that is exactly what I was trying to describe, but you said what I was thinking.
Right. So, speaking of which, okay, so there's this YouTuber I watch all the time. I don't want to give anybody a plug, so I'm not going to plug Jimmy High Roller. Whoops. All right. A lot of times I comment like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then I'm like, okay, that was an absolute home run. And it's either hit or miss with him.
Yeah.
He did this Victor Wembanyama YouTube video a couple days ago. Was it 2 days ago? And he was saying he is better than we thought. So he's now 20. I believe he came into the league 19 years old, 7'4", from Europe, can play defense, can block shots, can handle the ball, can shoot, whatnot. And most of the video was not about his offense. It was about how great of a defensive player he was, right? Or is. And how he's way better than we thought. So the day the YouTube video comes out, they play the 76ers, and he has to guard Joel Embiid. Guess how many points Joel Embiid had?
I'm going to take an educated guess because I do believe I've seen this throughout the weekend. Was it 70 points?
70 points. I was like, Jimmy, you better take this post down.
Yeah.
And it was on the anniversary, I want to say the 18th anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81 points back when the NBA was at a standstill. It was all defense in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was tough to score. But also the Timberwolves center, Karl Anthony Towns, on that same day that Joel Embiid scored 70, on the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81, he scores 62.
Yeah.
He was 10 for 15 from three. So 30 of his points came from three-point line. Coach Chris Finch of the Timberwolves. Now, this is his coach. We were talking about Joe Green, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Here's his quote. It was an absolute disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball. This is what happens when you allow this type of approach. Not like congratulations to my player. He was embarrassed of the NBA.
Yeah, right.
Now, I'm a huge basketball fan. I love the NBA, but it is becoming unwatchable.
It is unwatchable, Brian. I do say this all the time. I grew up an NBA fan. I was a huge Orlando Magic fan growing up.
Were you a Shaq and Penny fan?
A huge Shaq and Penny. Shaq, Penny, Horace Grant, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, the whole way down. That was my squad when
Was it Nick Anderson that picked Jordan's pocket in 95?
It was Nick Anderson. When he came back in the playoffs, or he came back right before the playoffs, but he did lose that series 4-2.
When he switched from 45 to 23.
Yes.
He wanted to be 45 originally.
Yes, that was his.
And somebody else had it, and I'm sure it was some terrible Bulls player because they were all terrible. And I guess he cut 45 in half, and somehow Jordan math came up with 23.
Yeah. But as I said, Brian, I was always a big NBA fan. My oldest son was a pretty good basketball player. What I see in the NBA, it is almost becoming unwatchable. And here we are at this point in the season, and I'm still not into it to the point where I'm even. Like I said, I seen 70 points scored the other day. I seen it was on Kobe's anniversary. But as far as following the game, following the NBA, it's becoming more difficult every year.
Yeah, I mean, just the rules of the game that I played. Did you play, Ryan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so the rules of the game were, like you had to dribble the ball in order to move your feet, right? Now you don't have to dribble. You could just take like 6 steps and then start dribbling, or dribble, pick it up.
Only
and then take
some guys, though, because I noticed some guys get called for this still. But,
I have my theory on that. But yes, the moving screen bothers me more than the traveling.
Right.
A screen you're supposed to set the screen. The ball handler's supposed to drive his man to the screen and force him to run into it. Now the guys run up, and like some of them look like a tight end blocking or something, where they're using their arms and they're moving their feet. And I don't understand how the refs don't call it. And it's just, it's worse than some YMCA games that I've seen.
I don't recall if it was on your show, if it was on Ralph's show last week. I made the statement.
Was it about wrestling?
It was not.
Okay,
but I did
might be mine then.
I did make the point to say that it's not the same game anymore. It's the show. There's two different things going on here. You have what basketball is, and then you have what the show is. And the show is where you go and don't abide by the rules and basically make a show. You're dunking, you're hitting all these threes, as you mentioned. And that's the show. And then you have everything that we're talking about. That's basketball. I hope that it's not evolving to the show in its entirety, because I do like to go to a good high school basketball game. I do watch a good college basketball game and watch these guys play that really play by the rules. But I got to say, Brian, I seen a video the other day where LeBron James came dribbling up the court, took two, he's dribbling, he stops, takes 3 steps, continues to dribble. The guy that's playing defense points it out to the referee. What's going on? Nothing is called. This is the game. This is the show. And I like I said, the show is certainly making me lose interest in the overall sport of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you could just look at the ratings from like the '98 finals to what we have now, and I mean, it's down like pathetically. We do have to go to break. I think we're going to talk a little bit more NFL, maybe some conspiracy theory when we come back, everybody. You've been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to one man's opinion on sports.
In revolutionary times, to be a patriot meant devoting oneself to the greater good and serving one's country in order to preserve the quality of life for everyone. Being a patriot can still bring great rewards in much the same way when you engage with Patriot Home Care in the Beaver Falls area. It can happen as an in-home care and general assistance provider for your loved one, or as a place for you to serve others as a Patriot Home Care employee. Do the patriotic thing today. Call Patriot Home Care, 724-506-8911. Let's all join together to serve the community. Airtime provided by Beaver Area Heritage Foundation.
Listening to live sports on the radio in Beaver County is a tradition. This is Craig Fontana from Moon Township Ford, and I ought to know. My dad, Bill Fontana, has called games for over 50 years. Beaver County people know a good call when they hear one, and the best call you can make is to buy your next new or used vehicle at Moon Township Ford. Click moontownshipford.net or visit Moon Township Ford on University Boulevard.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
When life brings the great outdoors indoors, you need a reliable washer and dryer with the ability to enhance cleaning and sanitize your laundry. See the experts at AK Nahas to determine the laundry pair that works the best for your family. Whether it's the durability of commercial cleaning like Speed Queen and Maytag, or the capacity and power steam cleaning of GE and Whirlpool, AK Nahas has it all. Cleaning is believing. See it all at AK Nahas Appliance, Furniture, Mattress, and TV. You'll do okay with AK.
The place for news, sports, and entertainment. You're listening to Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP, coming to you live from the all-new Fry Transportation Studios.
Now, back to One Man's Opinion with Bryan Pasquale.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. He's ready to take your calls at 724-774-1888 or 724-843-1888. Also, make sure you check us out at Beaver County Radio Facebook Live. Today's show is sponsored by EZ Home Exteriors, the letter E, the letter Z Home Exteriors. They do roofing, replacement windows, doors, and entries, as well as siding. EZ Home Exteriors is your one-stop shop for all of your exterior remodeling needs. For a free estimate, call 412-678-7008. That's 412-678-7008. All right, Ryan, first segment, we talked to Ralph Williams. Second segment, Dan Neely. Third segment, of all things, we talked NBA. I don't know. That's out of nowhere.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Speaking of which, Aronis Chapman?
I think it's cool. I mean, he's probably going to be trade bait. He's probably going to not be around long. And if anything, if he is around a while, he won't make it past the trade deadline come next season, unless the Pittsburgh Pirates are in the race, which I just can't seem to figure out what it's going to take. I know what it's going to take. I'm going to be honest with you. It's the starting pitching. This team needs starting pitching. You have Mitch Keller. You need at least 2 more nice arms. What's the guy that they were just talking to? I can't. His name's off my Noah Syndergaard. Apparently the Pirates are talking to him. There's a chance that there may be mutual interest with him. We do need at least 2 other starting pitchers before I would even start to consider taking this team seriously, Brian.
Yeah, plus like an arm always goes down too, so you probably need 3 more starting pitchers. I mean, you can't have like the call up guys being your 3, 4, and 5. I mean, you just can't have that. Here's my thoughts on Aroldis Chapman. I like it. I think it's smart, and here's why. In Moneyball, they're like, David Justice? I mean, he's great. He's going to sell tickets, but he's barely going to be able to hit his weight in the month of July.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapman is a great name.
Absolutely.
What is it, $10.5 million for I think he's been making like 18 or so. So he's 35, going to be 36, and he's going to be your eighth inning guy. That gives you him and Bednar, lefty righty at the end, right? Holderman can go to the 7 slot. So I like the fact that one of the 4 segments of baseball, they kind of have a strength, not necessarily fielding, starting pitching, or hitting, but they do have the bullpen strength. And let's just say they're not contending come the trade deadline. They're going to dump $5.25 million of their cap, trade him to a contender who needs a left arm that can throw 100 miles an hour, and they're going to get prospects.
Yeah.
So I think, and if they're contending, great.
And that's the thing. I hope they are taking this serious, and I hope they do become contenders because, as you said, you get that 8-9 inning punch. That's a big thing. But right now, it seems that is our main thing. And if you don't have hitting and you don't have pitching and you don't have, it really kind of falls by the wayside. But I do like it, Brian, if this season is taken seriously by this baseball team and they do take winning serious, having those 2 spots where they are with, as you said, David Bednar and Aroldis Chapman, I think that's a pretty high-skilled couple of guys you have there.
So, if they're playing like an team game here before the spring training and whatnot, do you think Chapman throws at I can't think of his name. McCutchen. Of all the names I can't remember. And do you think he's going to bean McCutchen?
I sure hope not. That would certainly make for some storylines. But you know what? Here in Pittsburgh with Pittsburgh sports, Brian, I do have to say I'm kind of through storylines. I just want to start seeing some Pittsburgh team win something, and the drama. I'm ready to put it behind me and win some championships in the Burgh.
Their soccer team was pretty good.
Their soccer team was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, they ended up losing 1-0 in the single elimination tournament.
Yes.
All right, so Dan the Man Neely brought up the NFL conspiracy.
Yeah, man.
Now, I watched a couple of conspiracy videos the other night. It had nothing to do with the NFL. It had to do with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers.
Yeah.
But, that was interesting. And I also watched a documentary on Oppenheimer. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. But here's my thing. Josh Allen ran, what was that? That was the 4,295-yard run against the Steelers?
Yeah.
And there was 5 guys that could tackle him, and nobody made an attempt. What Patrick Mahomes, and it was almost identical play, but it was down the right sideline as opposed to the left. Patrick Mahomes ran past all of the Dolphins doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Guys have the opportunity. Are they lazy, scared to get hurt, think the game's over, worried about themselves, or is it fixed?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I honestly do. And to all those things that you just kind of jumbled into one, they scared, is the game over? You have to make that decision real fast. In the NFL, these guys, they move really fast. The game moves really fast. And for a player to make that decision, that split decision, I don't know. I think the play is kind of sketchy. Because, again, what are you going to do? What are you going to do as a defender? You're thinking to yourself, okay, I got to make this play. But on the other hand, am I going to get fined? Am I going to hurt the guy? Am I going to get a penalty? And you have to make that decision really fast. So that's why I think they made a point to tackle this issue in college with the picket rule and so forth. I'm not a big fan. Again, on one hand, you're telling me to protect this guy. But on the other hand, I have to make a decision like right now on whether I could try to make the tackle to win the game.
So you're basically saying instead of being instinctive to just make the tackle like you've been doing your whole life, the NFL rules are making you think for a split second about like where you're allowed to tackle, if you're allowed to tackle, and by the time you think for that split second, it's too late? Is that kind of... I
do think that.
Okay.
And here's the thing. With a quarterback, you can't hit him in the head. You can't hit him in the shoulder. You can't hit him in the legs. You can't... they're literally... It's going to be down to a piece of, where can I hit this guy?
Do you mean like the Pro Bowl flag football game?
I hate it. I hate that flag football game.
Well, isn't there like dodgeball too?
There is dodgeball.
Do they
too.
use like a softball so like nobody gets hit in the head, or do they wear helmets?
I would definitely be one of these guys that are bowing out of this game. I think that's the most ridiculous.
No, you know what they should do? They should wear what's the
They should wear dresses, Brian.
No, yes. No. No, they should wear the helmets. What's the concussion practice helmets? Like dark helmet.
While they're playing volleyball. Dodgeball.
No, shirtless volleyball like in Top Gun.
Yeah, it's going to be bowling next. Somebody's going to get hurt in this volleyball game. And it's
bumper.
It's
somebody threw gutter ball and got upset, so now it's bumper bowl.
Yes, they're going to be playing in Connecticut. They're going to be playing bowling next, in a couple years.
Why in Connecticut?
I don't know, it seems like a safe place.
Whatever happened to Hawaii?
Well,
wasn't that like the goal was to make the Pro Bowl and go to Hawaii and take your family on a vacation? I mean, that was
you get off the plane, they put the lay on you, the whole thing, and the experience. I always thought that's what the Pro Bowl is about.
All right, Ryan, we have about 4 minutes or so left. Before we get into this weekend's game, tell me about your podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. It's called the Two Dumb Yinzers Show or the Two Dumb Yinzers Podcast, depending on what way you'd watch. It is on YouTube every day at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can check out the show from Monday through Friday. It's also over on Spotify in podcast form after 8 o'clock p.m. every day, the same brand new show. You can always check us out on our website at www.thetwodumbyinsers.com. That's www.thetwodumbyinsers.com. We are all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it is, the whole way down. And coming soon, and I'm talking real soon, Brian, we are on the show going to be starting to take phone calls, so that's going to be something that we're looking forward to.
That's interesting.
And
I'll call in once a week or so.
Yeah, give me a ring. Give us a ring on the show. We would love to hear from you, man.
All right, awesome. Check out the Two Dumb DUM Yinzers.
I appreciate it, bud.
All right. So Sunday, January. What is it? The 20 whatever.
What, this coming Sunday? Well, today's the 24th. I could give you that. I could give you that much information.
All right. Well, I didn't write down here. I wrote Jan. That's in January. All right. We have 3 p.m. Chiefs at Ravens. What do you think going on there?
I like the Chiefs. I think that the Ravens are certainly the more impressive looking team at this point in time. However, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. You have to figure out a way to beat this team in order to stop the Chiefs' avalanche. I don't think the Ravens do it. The Chiefs have the experience. They win.
Okay, so even though the Super Bowl colors are purple, and what is it, purple and red?
Yeah, I mean, if you squint your eyes really hard, you could turn it into the Detroit blue, which kind of works into what I'm saying, because I think the Detroit Lions win on the other side of the bracket. So I think that
you're going with the 2 road teams.
I am going with both road teams. Everyone seems to be going with both number 1 seeds, both home teams. I refuse to do it. I think Kansas City has the experience. They've been there, done that. Baltimore's playing a little too good right now for me. I just think that Kansas City wins that game, and then on the other side, I think this is Detroit's year. If it's not, that window closes really fast. Not for many other reasons besides because they're Detroit.
Interesting. So you say the Ravens are too good.
They're playing. Yeah. Let me explain it real quick. I have a couple minutes.
Listen, we got plenty of time.
AFC North football. AFC North football is a certain style of football. AFC North football does not match up with every style.
It's like the Big East.
It is like the Big East. Now, it's very good. You have to be a very good AFC North team to compete and win in the division. But once you get outside of the AFC North, you then start playing other divisions where it's not so compatible anymore. And this happens with the Steelers in the past, where we've had a better team, but we took our style into the playoffs and we lost. I think the same thing happens this week to the Baltimore Ravens. You're good, you're real good, but again, you're facing a different entity. You're facing somebody who's been to the AFC Championship game 6 years in a row. I just don't think it matches up like we didn't match up with the Patriots. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs win this week. Two more weeks of Taylor Swift after this, guys.
What did you think of Kelsey's brother?
I thought it was kind of weird. My opinion on this,
yes,
he's a millionaire. These guys are drunk. He has a Chiefs hat on. There's always one. There's always one in the crowd, guys. There's always one. It could have definitely got worse. It could have been anything. Somebody could have taken a beer bottle and smashed him across the back of the head. Again, he's a millionaire. He's famous. These kind of things happen. I didn't think it was that smart of a move. Ultimately, I think that's what.
Yeah, I just think it's like.
It was fun. I mean,
I don't think it was fun, but I guess he had fun, and some other people thought he had fun, and I saw this little video. This little girl, she was dressed up in like a cheerleading outfit for some team. I would assume the Chiefs or whatever. And the mom was like, "Oh, are you watching football?" She's like, "Yeah." "Oh, what football team?" "I don't know." "Who's your favorite football player?" And she goes, "Taylor Swift." So I guess they're getting another a diversity of teenage and 20-year-old girls to watch the NFL, as if everybody wasn't already watching enough. Well, Ryan, I had a blast tonight on the show.
As always, man.
I don't know. I guess we'll be back here next Wednesday from 5 to 6. I'd like to thank Ralph Williams for coming on. You check him out from 4 to 6 on Tuesdays on the Sports Corner. I'd also like to thank our guest, Dan Neely. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We will see you back here in 167 hours.